are talking cut candidates here on this edition of Seattle Seahawks Today. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for stopping by. We are going to break down 5 different players who could be on the chopping block with mandatory minicamp in the rearview mirror. As one man once said, "You're fired." We'll go over those names in just a matter of moments. Before we do, all month long here on Seahawks Today, we are in a comment battle with the 49ers report to see who can get the most comments on their channels for the month of June. And you can see we got a slight lead on the Niners report. Today I want to run up the score, and I couldn't think of a better way to run up the score than spam it FSF. F said Fred. F said Fred. F said Fred. Oh, that feels so good to say. I know that it's still the offseason, but it's never too early to stick it to those nasty Niner fans and all their needles in San Francisco. Get in the chat right now, spam FSF, and we'll get started with today's show. Let's begin looking at the Seahawks cap space as of right now. According to the folks over at overthecap.com, with the recent restructurings that the Seahawks made, the likes of Mike Jackson, Draymond Jones, and others, the Seahawks have about $8.5 million in cap space at the moment. And with the moves that we're going to talk about today, the Seahawks can basically double their cap space with these potential savings here, which would then give them the flexibility to bring in another player if they so choose. The potential cap savings we're talking about today is close to $10 million that the Seahawks could save here. So without further ado, let's get to the candidates. We begin with edge rusher Darrell Taylor. And Daryl Taylor, if you go back about 2 years ago, he was really good when he had about 9.5 sacks, which tied for the team lead in sacks back in 2022. But since then, the question has become, what does Darrell Taylor really offer at this point? You have Uchenna Nwosu coming back from injury. Boye Mafe coming off a strong campaign. You also have Derek Hall going into his second year in the NFL. Darrell Taylor, we know he can get after the quarterback, but he struggles in coverage. He struggles in run defense. He's a one-trick pony, if you will, and that's not going to fly in Mike Macdonald's defense. A lot of experience for Darrell Taylor, 49 career games played, but the story of Darrell Taylor's career has been opportunity after opportunity, but yet still getting pushed aside. He's been a starter and been benched multiple times since he joined the Seattle Seahawks, and it doesn't appear that he's a part of the long-term plans for this future of this team. If you cut Darrell Taylor, you're looking at saving about $3.12 million against the cap, and also opening up that roster spot potentially for somebody else. The numbers from Darrell Taylor, you can see last year in 17 games played, had 5.5 sacks, 7 tackles for loss, 1 forced fumble. The year prior, 9.5 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, 8 tackles for loss there in 2022. So now it's your turn. You make the call here on Seahawks Today. Our pinned comment: should the Seahawks cut Darrell Taylor? Type Y for yes, in for no. Let us know what you think. Seahawks Today, there is no offseason here on the channels. We're bringing you our daily news and rumors, live shows twice a week, Madden Sims for every Seahawks game of the 2024 season, breaking news, interactive Q&A mailbags, and more. We are the place you need to be. If you're a diehard member of the 12s, you got to subscribe to Seahawks Today. Join the family now, youtube.com/SeahawksTV. Best part about it, it's free. Doesn't cost you a thing. Subscribe now. Next on our list, this should come as no surprise. It is Dwayne Eskridge, a.k.a. Dee Eskridge. And right now, as is, when you look at the Seahawks wide receiver room with JSN, Lockett, DK, Chenault, Jake Bobo and company, Dee Eskridge isn't going to make the 53-man roster unless things dramatically change for Dee Eskridge over the coming weeks ahead. He's not on track to make it as he's been passed up by other receivers that the Seahawks have now. And so if you're the Seahawks, it's post-June 1 now. You could just essentially cut to the chase and cut ties with Dee Eskridge right now. Dee Eskridge is supposed to be this kick return specialist, right? A wide receiver and also part of the return game. He's never fielded punts before, so he doesn't help you in that regard in special teams, so that's not great. And you guys know the receiving numbers aren't that great at all. They've been pretty disappointing for Dee Eskridge. So what does he really mean to this Seahawks team? He is very replaceable, right? And I know some people are going to point to, hey, you got the new kickoff rules, which bring a new emphasis to the kick return game. There's a number of guys that could do that you don't need to keep Dee Eskridge around for. Mike McDonald is not looking to have players on this roster that only do one thing. You got to be able to do multiple things. He's emphasized that before. They want athletes. Dee Eskridge has come well short of that. Cap savings, about $1.5 million on Dee Eskridge if you move on from him. $1.05 million, rather, the exact number there. Here's what we're talking about statistically for Dee Eskridge. Played in 4 games last year, also had the suspension as well, so some character concerns off the field. His best season, you had to go back to his rookie year in 2021, where he had 10 catches for a total 64 yards and a touchdown for Dee Eskridge. Not great, Bob. All right, before we go any further and get to the rest of our cut candidates, Byron Murphy, I am very excited about here in Seattle. His jerseys are on sale now. He's wearing the number 91. So just added 9 to that 1. You get that visual? You got that visual. Go to chatsports.com/Murphy to get yours today. Free shipping available as well. And you can get yours in plenty of time for the start of the Seahawks season. The link is in the comments and description of today's video. Chatsports.com/Murphy to get yours today. All right, time to get stoned as we find Stone Forsythe next on our list at the offensive tackle position. And I'll say this. Stone, last year, a lot was asked of him from this Seahawks team with the injuries to Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas. But now you bring in George Fant. You drafted Mike Jarrell as well. I'm not sure where Stone fits anymore with this Seahawks team. And maybe his fit is to start the year on the practice squad and potentially wait for his name to be called if there's an injury or something. But at least for now, assuming that Abraham Lucas is healthy, I just don't know if there's room at the moment to keep Stone Forsythe around. And I'll say this. I like Stone. Comes from a good football pedigree. His dad played for the Bengals. And, you know, he came through for the Seahawks. I think in particular that Lions game last year, he played very well. And we've seen flashes where he's done pretty well for this Seahawks team. But we've seen the bad as well. And it doesn't seem like he's a part of those future plans for what the Seahawks have in mind. Cap savings for Stone Forsythe is about $1.06 million. Maybe it's a situation where you cut him, put on the practice squad for cheaper. The grades on him, very good when it comes to run blocking, 71.4. But the pass block grade was just atrocious, a 40.9 grade last year. Had 2 penalties as well. And with the greater emphasis when it comes to the passing game with what Seattle's going to do, that's just not going to work, having those low in numbers when it comes to pass blocking there. 2 more names to get to in a moment, but first, who's a player the Seahawks should cut? Let us know who you think the Seahawks should move on from in the comments section below. Let's go back to the defensive side of the ball now. This is where we find Jon Rhattigan. Rhattigan looked very strong in mandatory minicamp, the 2 practices last week for Seattle, and there is a lack of depth at that position with the injuries that we've seen to Dodson and Baker. Rhattigan stepped up and took advantage of that opportunity. But the truth of the matter is this. He's not worth paying $3 million to. If I'm John Schneider and I want to keep Jon Rhattigan around, I'm going to cut him, and I'm going to sign him for about $1 million, and I'm going to save $2 million. All right? That, to me, makes the most sense, because when you look at Jon Rhattigan, prior to what we've seen in mandatory minicamp, he has been, what's been the theme of the show? Another specialist, primarily a special teams guy, and that ain't going to work, folks. It's a great story for him. Coming from the Army, undrafted in 2021, he's played in 36 games. He's well-liked and well-respected. But I could cut him and save $3 million and use that cash elsewhere, or I could cut him, go sign him for $1 million and save $2 million. It just doesn't make any financial sense whatsoever to pay Jon Rhattigan $3 million at this point when I can have him if I want him for cheaper. So That's what I'm looking at for Jon Rhattigan at this point. I don't expect him to be back at the very least on his current contract. What do you guys think? Should the Seahawks cut Jon Rhattigan? Type C for cut, K for keep. Weigh in the comments section and let us know. You're in charge now. Be the boss. Tell us what you want to do with Jon Rhattigan. Last on our list, we turn our attention to defensive end Myles Adams. And when you look at what the Seahawks have done, retooling the defensive line this offseason with the additions that they've made, we know about the draft pick of Byron Murphy. They drafted Jonathan Hankins, and the mixing and matching, the moving around, if you will. Adams finds himself as kind of the odd man out, if you will, right now. Kind of like what we talked about with Dee Eskridge, kind of just cut to the chase, right? Seems highly unlikely that Myles Adams is going to be around when the season begins. Undrafted in 2022 out of Rice, recorded his first career sack last season against the New York Giants, but this is somebody that in 23 career games played has just one start, so limited experience for Myles Adams and hasn't really shown the ability to be an impact player. The cap savings on Myles Adams is not a ton of money, just under $1 million, but still $1 million that could be spent at other positions. Here's what we're talking about: the lack of production. Last year, just 6 tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss there in 2023. So there you have it. That's our list of updated cut candidates for your Seattle Seahawks. If you made it to the end of today's video, that means you're a real one. Spam 12 in the comments section. I'm Tyler Jones. We appreciate you. We'll see you next time here on Seahawks Today.